Hi, Gary Whiting here. This video is going to be a short video, and it's going to be for the benefits of my students so they know how to put together their presentation for their in-home study program. What we're trying to do is find out if they know their techniques that they've been taught, and they know where to do those techniques. So that's what this is about. It's about the techniques and how to do your techniques and where to do your techniques. All right, so we've got bubbles here, as if that matters, but it's bubbles. Not tiny little bubbles, but it's bubbles. All right, so the techniques will be demonstrated this way. We're going to describe each technique. This is a percussion, and I usually use a little flip. We have a rotation and a sedation technique, and that's usually done not on the tippy tip of the thumb, but sort of on the pad. So you might want to come on over here. There you go. So we're going to do rotate without sliding over. We're going to move the tissue, rotate, and then hold direct pressure, and that's called sedate or sedation. And you want to think in terms of corkscrewing in, deeper, deeper, deeper hold, rather than da 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 da. And it just simply makes for a better session for the horse. And then so we had our percussion, we had our rotation, corkscrew in, and sedation. The next thing we have is a cross fiber technique. And you see that your muscles will run this way in the shoulders, and so the fiber runs this way. You don't go with the fiber, you go across the fiber. And the reason being, I guess the best analogy I could use would be that of an acoustic guitar player. As he plays his guitar, he puts tension on those strings, and they start to stretch. So every 7 or 8 songs, he's got to retighten his strings because they've stretched. So you're going to be tightening or playing the guitar strings of your horse. In this case, we're going to relax those strings. So you would go cross fiber, and sometimes you'll see a little jerking motion in there. Cross fiber is not sliding over. Cross fiber is hooking. There's a little jerking motion right there. All right, so what you're doing, you're causing the fibers to stretch and elongate themselves, which is going to give you better range of motion. So we've had our percussion, we've had our rotation, sedation, cross fiber. The next one we're going to use is the kneading technique. So you would just simply take this part of the fist and you move that tissue. You don't slide over, you want to move that tissue. Move that tissue, or you can take the heel of your hand and move that tissue. All right, and then when we get to the legs, we're going to have a stripping technique where we basically just strip down to our lines that you learned in your videos. All right, so those are the 6 techniques. We have our percussion, rotation, sedation, cross fiber, kneading, and stripping. That should be 6. All right, so now I'm going to show you where we will do those techniques. I generally like to start at what I think is the most important part of the horse or the human, and that's going to be at the neck. So our lines come down to this top line here, and I will stop it right there. The second line just starts a little bit this side of where the first line started, and it's going to come down underneath this rhomboid muscle, then up over the scapula, and go stop it again where I stopped my first line. Line 3, 4, and 5 is connected to this brachiocephalic muscle. So line 3 would be on top of this muscle, and it comes down into the shoulder and stops at the midpoint of the shoulder. The belly of the muscle, which would be the high part, you come down, stay on that belly, take it down into where it ends in the mid part of the shoulder, and line 5 goes around the atlas, and it comes down and stops at mid part of the shoulder. So those are the 5 lines of the neck I addressed, and in there we use our rotation, sedation, cross fiber, percussion, and kneading techniques. Now we move from there to the back. We continue, we got 3 lines on the back, up against the spine, and we find the next line is going to be the shelf of the rib. So the third line, or the second line, but the third line we're going to look for is going to be right between line 1 and line 3. So along the spine, in between line 1 and 3 at the shelf, and the shelf to the point of hip. And so that's where those lines will end. And in there we use our percussion, our rotation, sedation, our cross fiber technique. And since you can't do your kneading up here, you can do your kneading with the heel of your hand up here. Now in the shoulder, we've got 5 lines we're going to work with, going from the tricep up to the front of the scapula. There are 2 lines that run parallel in the supraspinatus muscle. You have a line that comes up through here. You have a line that comes up in the front of the tricep on the edge of the deltoid up to here, and then at the back of the tricep up here. We do our same technique: rotation, sedation, cross fiber, percussion, and kneading. And as I said, we do our stripping techniques on the leg. So this is where we first do it. So we strip down 3 to 5 times, each time going a little bit deeper and deeper. All right, so we do all those techniques. We do stripping, rotation, sedation, cross fiber. We have a percussion, and we have our kneading technique. So we now have 6 techniques that we're using in the legs. Then we would pick up the leg, and we would take this tendon, and we're going to move our tendon. We're going to put it stretching to that tendon. We're going to strip, 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 and then we have the ting points, which are at the cornet band, where we come around. We hold those 3 to 5 seconds, 5 seconds, and we do our ting points, which are the beginning and ending points of a meridian. And then from there, we have our path. We have ascending and descending path here, here, and we'll do simply a percussion and a cross fiber technique there. On the belly of the horse, we're going to rake back and forth with the intention of bringing the back up and opening up the spine. Sometimes you'll hear, if they come up high enough, you hear a little pop in there when you get a nice little release. And then from there, then we're going to do our digestion, direction, sweep. So we do our digestion, and then we're going to end up with a sweep on the conception vessel from back to front, or this way. All right, and then in the back of the horse, if we can get our horse to stop scratching her butt here, come on around. We're going to have to move our horse around a little bit. Come on, Bubbles. All right, so now we're going to end up in the back of the horse. Line 1 continues right down alongside the tail, down to the center of the butt, into the leg. Line 2, you see this line here, this is what we would call perhaps the poverty groove. So it's going to come from point of hip and line 1. So you come down through that line and stop it here. And then third line is going to be from the point of the hip around into the stifle. You use everything: rotation, sedation, cross fiber, percussion, and kneading techniques. On the back end, we do a little cheek pull, stretch it. We're going to do cross fiber techniques in there. In the inside of the leg, we're going to do cross fiber techniques in there. And as you know, if you have a horse that's a little ouchy, a little bit not comfortable, let's say, you have to address that in a more of a concerning way. So let's say you're going along and the horse tenses up and doesn't really want you to go any further. So you stay at that point, you relax the horse says, okay, Once they start to give in, then you go back to the front of the horse, and you maybe work around the eye a little bit, and you're going to basically be thanking the horse for letting you in there. So then when you come back, you can start where you left off and go a little higher. And then we come to like the uh-oh zone. I'm not sure I want you there. You keep working that point until the horse relaxes and gives in. Then you go back to the intimate zone. And you connect with the horse again, and you're thanking the horse. Basically, you're showing respect to the animal. And they will eventually let you all the way up in there, and they'll be happy that you're there, because you're addressing an area that they have a difficult time getting to. All right, so that's what you do in your cross fiber techniques. So we got the same thing we did on the front legs. We have our 6 lines. We use our rotation, sedation, cross fiber, percussion, kneading, and stripping techniques. And that is based, and of course we pick the leg up. We're going to work our tendons. It's best to work the tendons off the ground because they're like right there, they're soft. But the other one would be hard as a bowstring. So you want to get a soft tendon so you can get some movement in it. So then we end up doing our tail, which you learned about working the facets in the tail. And then of course we end the session coming back to the intimate zone, which is right in the face. And this is a great time and a great place to end the session, because if the session has been good, and I'm pretty confident that what you did, if you follow what I did, is going to be a good session. And plus I saw your video, I saw you work on the horse, so I know you know what you're doing. But this is the time to connect to your horse, because you've been bringing the horse to you, you've been bonding each other to one another. So it's a good place to end, so you can work around the eyes. See, we think you write letters. No, you don't need a pen. You don't write letters. And so you got the TMJ area here. You can work that area. You can come on down. You do pretty much everything. You can do a little rotation. You can do some sedation. You can do some cross fiber in there. You can work in the jaw area. That's my pen. You like zebra pins? Okay, so you work, and around the ears, this is important. Coming in, being able to move those ears around, and maybe pick those ears up and release the tension off the neck at the atlas area. And if you do this right, if you have a horse that is shy in the ear area, see, we've already started to drop our head just from that little bit of relaxation there. If you have a tension in the neck, it might be at the atlas, just by working that ear and pulling it up off away, it de-stresses. It takes tension out of that area. And so so if you're doing your treatment right and you've released all this tension up here, then you can start to work your way into the ear and eventually get in where you can strip the inside of the ear and strip. And if you will notice, we stop chewing. This feels really good. So this is a very important area. And then governing vessel 16 is going to be right here under our nose, and it's going to be right here under the nose of the horse, right in the center, right underneath the lip on the gum. And this is the point where you start to relax your horse. It relaxes the human being, it relaxes the horse, and sometimes they'll just start to drop their head. So these are little areas that are important. So that's the presentation. So now when you do your presentation and I see it, I'm going to know if you really know what you're doing. So that's it. That's the presentation. I hope you enjoyed it.